Hello everyone, CT of the CP Gaming Lab here. Today I wanted to try something a little bit new from what we normally do on our channel. Normally I do review videos. I've been pumping those out a little bit here and there, but I wanted to try a news format here, and this will be pretty conversationalist. I have some notes in front of me, and I wanted to speak today on the Free Lanes update for Starfield. So if you guys have hopped into any of my streams before, you guys know that I love talking about Starfield because I was really looking forward to the game, but unfortunately it did not hit every single thing that I wanted it to be. Obviously I never expected it to, but there were a couple of points within the game that I wish that could be better. Well, with this Free Lanes update for Starfield, I was cautiously optimistic and kept my expectations in check. And so I kind of wanted to go over in this video what was exactly in the Free Lanes update. And then after that, I'll talk about my overall thoughts. And then kind of at the end of the video, wrap up with a little bit of my own wants for the future updates for the game. First off, I guess we'll just jump right into it. The Free Lanes update was just shown to us today on 17th of March, so Tuesday. I was really hoping to hear something about it soon, and I'm glad that we heard about it now. The Free Lanes update will be coming out on April 7th, so next month, really super early, and that update will include the Free Lanes update itself with a bunch of the quality of life things and other features that they're adding, as well as the Terran Armada DLC, which will be coming out for $10, and the PS5 release. So I initially played on PC. I do not own an Xbox or a PlayStation. So for those of you who are on PlayStation and were looking forward to play Starfield, maybe check it out. And also with this Free Lanes update, I actually think that it brought a lot of substantial changes to the game that may make people who were interested in Starfield. Again, I actually will take something from their marketing and what they've released so far. All of their marketing has pointed towards this is for Starfield players. So if you guys are coming to this video or you guys have watched the update and kind of been like, oh, like, is this going to be like a Starfield 2.0? They have clearly stated that this is not a Starfield 2.0. This is just, if you like Starfield, then this is more of Starfield. These are quality of life updates, and it will make it more fun for people who are already fans of Starfield, who always just wanted a little bit extra. And that's kind of like the boat that I'm sitting in. I didn't hate Starfield. I enjoyed my time with it for the most part, but it wasn't a Skyrim or a Fallout where I would spend like 1,000 hours, 500, 600 hours into it. Then I would jump into the modding scene and stuff like that. So this one it's definitely a big quality of life update that just, if you like the game beforehand, then those are the people that it's for. And as well as the Terran Armada DLC, the Free Lanes update, and the PS5 stuff that's coming out on April 7th. Today, actually, they release an extension to the Trackers Alliance quest. So I think sometime last year, they released the Trackers Alliance quest creation, and it was kind of like a little bit of a point of contention because people were talking about how the Trackers Alliance quest creation was created by Bethesda, so it's kind of more of like a DLC than it really is like a player-created creation, a mod community created creation. They added an extension to that so that the initial Trackers Alliance quest was just like a simple quest line where you track down a couple of people, kind of like a bounty hunter type thing. And there was a short little like 1 or 2 hour quest line that you would go down for. Well, they added an extension to that for free. So like if you already own the Trackers Alliance quest creation, then there's more content in that creation for you for free. But they did not jack up the price. So if you don't own it yet, then you can still purchase it for the same price. I forgot how much it was, maybe about like $10 or something like that, like $5-10. Yeah, it'll include all of that. So they didn't jack up the price or anything. They just added more stuff to it. And so yeah, so that is the April 7th release date. So now I wanted to kind of dive into the meat and bones of the Free Lanes update as it was in general. So I guess we'll go ahead and start off where they started, which was the cruise mode. So a lot of people had issues with loading screens when the game initially came out. And I personally wasn't too bothered by it, but I could definitely see what people were talking about. And most people were talking about the loading screens when it came to, in spaceflight, where you had to open up your menu and you had to travel to another planet, and then you had to open up your menu, and then you had to land on a planet, and then you had to leave your spaceship, which was another loading screen. So lots of loading screens for you to go into, right? So the cruise mode kind of is like a little bit of a compromise here, where, development time versus like what can we actually give the players that may answer that type of feedback. And I think that they struck a pretty good balance here. So basically what cruise mode is it's seamless flight between planets. So there's no loading screens now, if you don't want there to be. So you can choose to use a cruise mode, and basically you'll be, I think it's only within a solar system. So what I saw from the trailer, which I actually have playing in the background here, you guys can take a look, is in the trailer they showed off that the cruise mode is within a certain system, so within a solar system. I don't think that there's any cruise mode in between systems within the game world. So, you're not going to be traveling in between one solar system and another with the cruise mode on. I think they just decided that would maybe take too long, or maybe it's an engine limitation, or maybe they just thought it was boring. I don't know. But regardless, the cruise mode seems to only be functioning, at least from what they showed, it's only working within a solar system. So to travel in between different planets and moons within a single solar system. So with that seamless flight between planets, you can actually be interrupted on your path, and there are new unique events that occur. So maybe like an attack, or maybe there's a space station that you come across, or something like that, or maybe a wreckage, something along the lines of those types of events. So nothing like too crazy, but a little bit of extra events. I kind of like that they're adding some more organic gameplay, something to spice it up a little bit when you're in the middle of a cruise mode. Additionally, with the cruise mode, you can actually get up out of your ship, so you're not glued to your pilot seat and just watching, like the space travel in between planets. You can actually get out of your pilot seat and you can talk to your companions, as well as interact with your ship, and you can also customize your ship while you're in the middle of cruise mode. And if you do happen to become interrupted in the middle of cruise mode, then you can get back into your pilot ship and see pilot seat, and then see what's going on there. After cruise mode, we have outposts. So they added a couple of new quality of life things to the outposts, as well as a couple of new modules and objects, other items you can have. Most notably, they added a shared outpost container. So in the shared outpost container, it works exactly the way that you think it does. Basically, you can build a new outpost container in any of your outposts, and then any inventory things that you put inside, any items you put inside of the outpost container, will then be able to be shared between your outposts regardless of how far they are. Now, they didn't showcase exactly how big this inventory would be. I know a lot of the containers in Starfield have a certain amount of mass that they can hold. So I don't know if the shared outpost container has this limitation. I didn't see it shown on screen, but hopefully it's not too stingy. Additionally, they added some new action figures. So these action figures are items that you can collect throughout the game world, and you can actually put them into your outpost. I assume you can also put them into your ship and display them. They have them in packaged form and unpackaged form. And I actually think the action figure is kind of cool, add a little bit of a set piece, but they also operate the same way that the bobbleheads do in Fallout. So if you guys are familiar with that, the bobbleheads would give you a permanent passive stat boost. So 1% attack damage or 1% reload speed. So that's kind of a little thing, kind of a cool little thing to have. The last thing for the outpost is a new pet that they added. So if you guys were lonely out in the exploration world, they added a little pet guy. So I don't know if you can actually bring this little guy with you on your ship, but I know for a fact that they showed off that you can bring the little pet guy in your outpost. And I guess it looks like you can also pet it, and you can tell it to do little tricks and things. So kind of cute. So on to the next thing. I'll stop on the one that I was looking forward to the most. So this was actually my personal, I definitely want this to be added in an update. And I definitely think that this is something that they can add, and they did add it. So I'm actually really happy that they did. It is the new database function. So when I first played the game, I was like, man, it's really cool. You can travel around, you can explore different planets. There's new fauna and flora. There's, resources for you to find. You can play as a miner, you can play as a scientist, lots of different role play opportunities for this. And I just found it to be kind of frustrating that you wouldn't be able to log any of that. Any of the things that you found, anything that you scanned, it would kind of be like, oh yeah, in the back of my mind, I have to remember that on this random planet in this random solar system, there's iron, and there's, this type of plant and this type of alien creature on there that, has this specific resource that I need. And it was impossible to do that. Well, now they have a new database. Again, something that I was really looking and asking for. They added a database where it logs all of that for you. So I can't wait to test it out and see how in-depth all the information that they have in the database is. So definitely looking forward to seeing that. Nice quality of life thing. Another quality of life feature that they added was the quantum entanglement device. So in the quantum entanglement device, it's a new game plus feature. So you can build this in the lodge on New Atlantis in your little room. So you build this quantum entanglement device and you're able to put items into this chest essentially, right? And it brings items that you put in there into New Game Plus. So a little bit of a spoiler, like when you New Game Plus, it removes all of your items and everything. So you carry over nothing after you New Game Plus. And before, it kind of felt like a punishment, like you spend so much time, building your outposts, and you spend so much time creating all this gear, so like weapons and stuff, and you would lose everything. So I mean, a single playthrough in Starfield, depending on the person, it could take upwards of hundreds of hours, in just a single playthrough. And then when you decide to go through the Unity and New Game Plus, then you lose all that stuff. Well, they added the quantum entanglement device in order for you to bring items through the New Game Plus, and then you can also upgrade the quantum entanglement device to increase its capacity. So I think the maximum capacity for it was like 200. They showed off in the showcase. One of the questions that I had they didn't answer in the showcase was about the little action figures. Emil in the showcase actually noted, well, he like said in passing, like kind of like as a joke, but it actually posed a question. He said that the action figures, he was like, oh yeah, I'll take my action figures through the quantum entanglement device. But then I was like, wait, aren't the action figures like a permanent buff? So like when you go through the Unity and you New Game Plus, does that mean that you lose the permanent buff? Or rather, when you go through Unity, you can find even more of those action figures, and then you can, multiply your buffs, right? So if you find 2 action figures that give you, plus 1% reload speed, does that mean that you have 2% increased reload speed? Or does that mean that, or, do you need to bring the action figures over to New Game Plus in order to kind of receive that buff? But either way, I mean, it's not really too much of a big of a deal if they make the action figures cost like 0 weight, in which case it wouldn't affect the capacity of the quantum entanglement device. Regardless, just a small little question that I had. And then also, you can't bring over your ships, obviously. Your ships are your outposts, so it still kind of poses kind of like a little bit of a concern, and not a concern, but in the back of my head, I'm still kind of wondering, like, what's still kind of the point for your New Game Plus? Like, yes, you New Game Plus to get new abilities for your Starborn powers, and I guess now you can bring some stuff over, and you want a clean world state essentially. But I'm still kind of confused. Like, there's not really still too much of an incentive, especially if you spend so much time building up your outposts and building your ships and all this stuff, and you have a whole fleet essentially of a whole bunch of fully customized ships and stuff, and then you have to New Game Plus to redo all that stuff. I still don't really see too much of a reason for you New Game Plus unless you really want that clean slate world without like completely deleting your character. Anyway, we'll move away from that, and one more kind of little quality of life thing they added was I guess maybe not new quality of life, but this is like new features in general, is they added new points of interest. So this was a really big point of contention when the game first came out. I also share the same sentiment, is that there were not enough points of interest. And it's not necessarily that there were not enough POIs, but the fact that you would come across the same POIs within the same game state. So you don't even have to New Game Plus. You would, fly to a planet, and you would see an outpost, and there'd be a really cool story or something a little bit interesting. You would experience that and be like, okay, really cool, let's go explore the next planet. You go to another planet, and then there would be even the same exact outpost with the same story, the same NPCs, the same items in the exact same place, with the same enemies spawned in the exact same place. It would exactly be the same outpost, just on a different planet. And that was really frustrating. There was definitely a chance that you could encounter that back to back, but most of the time, people encountered it maybe like an hour, 5 hours, 10 hours, even 20 hours later, you're still going to remember something that was interesting. But anyway, they added new points of interest. So it doesn't exactly solve the issue, like repeating points of interest. And I'm not really 100% sure why they seem to be unable to make it so that in one playthrough, you only see one outpost. So they added a couple of new items. as well as those, quality of life stuff. So a couple of new items they added new item skins, they added new spacesuits, and then most notably they added this new item called the X Tech. So this is kind of like a Starborn-esque technology looking architecture, and the new item is used to further upgrade your weapons and your ships. So they added the ability for your weapons to be upgraded further past the legendary status. So there's 2 more tiers past legendary tier, and once you reach the top tier, it is you now use X Tech in order to re-roll. There's a re-roll mechanic for your weapon modifiers. So if you're ever playing Starfield and you're like, man, like I gotta grind, I gotta keep finding these enemies over and over again and hope for, maybe a Grendel or a shotgun, to drop that has a specific modifier. Well, now you don't have to, do that. Now you can just re-roll the modifier with X Tech over and over and over and over again until you get the modifier that you want for your specific weapon that you want. So nice little quality of life change, also with a new mechanic with X Tech. Additionally, X Tech is used to upgrade your ship, so they added an additional module that you can install on your ship. I think they call it the ship optimization module, and you can use this to give certain buffs. So you can increase your thruster speed or your thruster turning speed, increase the output of your shields or your damage, and then you use the X Tech item to further enhance these improvements on your ship. So X Tech new item, pretty cool. New spacesuits, new item skins. Very, very interesting. A couple of new things they added as well is they have 2 new companions in the Free Lanes update. You have 2 new companions in like a little robot. So now you have, I guess, like a little R2-D2 guy that can follow you around. Not quite, but he's got like a melee attack from what they showed. It doesn't look like you can customize him with weapons, but I'm not sure. I don't think they showed off any skins for him as well, so maybe he's pretty bare bones right now. Nothing that modders can't really fix, so I'm not really too concerned about the way the robot looks. I'm sure people will mod in that bot to look like R2-D2 within like, a week or something. And then they added a new female companion that seems to be kind of edgy, because they gave like a one-liner and she says something about being like a only child. She likes to think that she's an only child because she killed her like group inside of, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, a little bit of a funny, edgy comment that the companion made. But it's also nice to finally have a companion that is not part of a constellation. So I hope that she's a little bit more of a darker companion, because the base companions in the game they're just so sterile. I mean, even Andrea, I know a lot of people liked her. I didn't do like a full playthrough with her as my companion, but even when I was bringing her around, it's like, it seems just like everyone in Constellation is just so morally good. Everyone in Constellation is a goody two shoes, when they're like, oh, like we don't care how many crimes you commit as long as you're pushing forward science. But then if you bring any companion with you, they just absolutely hate anything evil that you even try to do. So I don't know, that was kind of disappointing in the base game. So hopefully this new companion is more accepting of your evil character playthroughs, or maybe less than morally good decisions. So next up, they also added I guess with the weapon modifiers, they added some new enemies that have modifiers as well. So lots of modifiers that they're adding. So enemies now have unique modifiers. So for example, they showed in the deep dive that enemies can have like a chance to take no damage, or they have the ability to berserk their remaining allies after you defeat them. Then the remaining enemies will go berserk and I guess do more damage or move faster or whatever. So kind of small little modifiers like that make combat a little bit more interesting, kind of making the gameplay less stale after super long playthrough. And also they added a new credit sync. So talking about outposts, they added a brand new player housing. So kind of like a new player housing that is available on an asteroid. So it's actually kind of cool. It seems like they were making it out to be like something that's a credit sink. So you can put a bunch of your credits in there. And it's probably going to be in the like 10. I hope it's like in the tens of millions, because I remember when I was playing Starfield, I mean, you just make money so easily. So that was pretty interesting. And in my notes, that is pretty much all about it that of note that I saw in the deep dive for the Terran, or for the Free Lanes update. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention they added a new space station, which is supposed to be like a new hub for a lot of new side quests that they added. Which is pretty cool. So Okay, moving on. They have the Terran Armada DLC that's coming out, April 7th, like I said. So this will be coming alongside the free lanes update. So the Terran Armada DLC, like I said, was $10, and it adds a new story element and a new faction, which is called the Terran Armada, hence the name of the DLC. So I guess the Terrans are a faction that split away during the Colony Wars, and they have a mechanized robot military where it's a new type of enemy type, so new robot enemy type. And along with the new robot enemy type, they decided to give you yet another companion. So along with the two other companions that I mentioned earlier in the video, with the small little R2D2 bot, as well as the new female companion, they added a new robot companion. And before you get too excited, it seems like he's not quite HK from Star Wars Knights of the Republic, if you guys were looking forward to that. They said that he's not quite evil. So that was kind of like oh man, he's not quite like HK. But if you guys know, you know. But along with the new robot enemies and the new robot companion, they also added some new weapons. They said that, I guess in their feedback, people were asking for more grounded weapons that weren't quite so sci-fi. So they added some new weapons that seemed to be more akin to the, I guess, modern day look of weapons. And then that was pretty much about it of note that I noticed. Obviously they added maybe like a new incursions, as I think they were calling it, like new events, new story events, but nothing too out of the ordinary gameplay loop. Something that I was kind of not really like concerned about, but something I kind of noticed and was thinking about when they were saying that the DLC was only $10 is I kind of figured that the story and the content they're adding will be kind of similar to like the Automatron DLC and Fallout 4. But yeah, the Automatron DLC added the ability for you to build robots, as well as like kind of like a short 1 to 2 hour quest line. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they added the ability for you to build custom robots in Starfield, which I think is kind of a missed opportunity. But yeah, I kind of anticipate that the story and quest line that they give us will still be around 1 to 2 hours. I mean, obviously hope that it's more than that, but considering that Shattered Space was $30 and most people got about like maybe 4 to 6 hours maximum, I kind of anticipate that Terran Armada will be maybe about 1 to 2 hours. But I stay to be pleasantly surprised if it is a long storyline with only $10. I mean, that would be awesome. And that was about it. Terran Armada update were $10, and then the Free Lanes update with all those quality of life. Like I said, the new Trackers Alliance quest will be out today. So if you own it, go ahead and pick it up and see if there's new stuff there. But yeah, so that's pretty much the update. Overall, I was pretty optimistic about what was shown. I definitely think that there was a lot of evidence in the deep dive and the trailers and everything that they showed today that they are taking player feedback. And I think that they're doing a pretty good job of incorporating that into the update here. And I can only hope that they continue to incorporate that into future updates and future DLC. So definitely overall optimistic, I would say. I'll go ahead and end off this video here, just a little bit of a segment where I wanted to kind of talk about maybe like potential future update ideas. Now, obviously, I could make like a whole separate video on features I would love to be added to Starfield, but there's kind of like a fine line between what can we realistically expect Bethesda to add, what's worth their time, what's like the most pressing things from the community feedback that they should be adding themselves. Kind of like a database, like I was saying, I think the database update that they added here was perfect. I mean, well, we won't know it's perfect until we actually play it, but I think the idea behind it is that's like a perfect example of something that Bethesda should add and not something that Modder should add. If we're talking about something that Modder should add, I'm thinking like customization for the, little R2D2 robot. They don't need to, I'm not too worried about them adding like a whole bunch of customization for that little bot, or, adding a whole bunch of new points of interest. Like I think that it's cool that they added points of interest, but I don't think that it was necessary that they added a whole bunch of new points of interest. I think the more pressing issue would be for them to completely eliminate the ability for you to encounter repeating outposts within one playthrough. I think that's something Bethesda should do. But in terms of adding new points of interest, that's something that modders have already done. So yeah. Anyway, so let's kind of just jump into it. My number one expansion idea that I want them to add, which I was a little bit disappointed to not see in this update, but maybe they'll add it in the future, is a Neon City expansion. Neon City to me was the city that I was looking forward to the most, and I was sorely disappointed when it came out. It just seems so tame. You know, kind of what I've been saying this whole video is that Starfield just seems so PG. You know, the Crimson Fleet over as like the pirate faction, they were just they seem so nice. You know, like they start off with being like, oh man, you have to prove yourself. Go, you know, go rob this place, go kill this guy or something. I forgot what the beginning of the Crimson Fleet storyline was. But then you have like a cool little cutscene where like, you know, one of the Crimson Fleet recruits is like fighting with another, and then they shoot that guy, and then that's pretty much the darkest that the Crimson Fleet storyline really gets. The rest of it is pretty tame, and then everyone else kind of like acts like they're super hard, but they look like they haven't actually experienced anything or done anything bad in their lives. But regarding Neon City, I was thinking, man, that was really sad. If you guys know what I'm talking about, the best example is definitely the club. The club in Neon City is an absolute joke. I forgot what the heck that club was called. I don't know. I went in there maybe a couple times because it was just so sad. I did it mainly for like the main quest line, and then like I think I've been there like another time for just like a side quest or something. I don't even remember. But yeah, the club is an absolute just joke in Neon City. But anyway, I was hoping kind of like in future updates, something that they can add is, you know, add some more factions. You know, I really like the idea that they had like um the strikers, and I forgot there was another like syndicate gang. Some I think they were literally called the syndicates or something like that. They had, you know, a couple gangs that were in Neon City, but I was like, man, you know, this is supposed to be kind of like almost like a dystopian, you know, kind of like cyberpunk-esque world. You know, not quite like I don't want them to like replicate exactly what's in cyberpunk, because obviously cyberpunk is the entire city, you know, but Neon City in Starfield only has those two layers. You have like the top layer, which is basically where like all the tourists are at, and then you have like pretty much like the workman's zone, you know, on the second floor. I was kind of hoping to see kind of like more like Undercity, like in the sewers, you know, kind of similar to what we see in like New Atlantis, where in New Atlantis you kind of have like that little like underground sewer esque, um, you know, kind of like poorer area. But I kind of like to see like a sewer rats area in Neon City. You know, I mean, I feel like that's kind of, you know, the strengths of having a city like Neon City, where it's supposed to be like a sin city, a crime city, you know, kind of like that. I mean, it's the only place where you can do drugs, essentially, you know, with Aurora. It's the only place where it's legal to consume and purchase Aurora, which is illegal everywhere else in the settled system. So I don't really understand why they never really expanded on that, but that's definitely a big thing, a big location that I hope that they put more work into in the future. But kind of along the same idea, I was hoping that they do like an oceans update. So again, this is kind of like almost picking on Neon City, but they don't even necessarily need to do it on Neon City. But I do think it would play to the strengths of it. The oceans update could even be added like just to Neon City, and I would probably be content to be completely honest with you guys. I felt like in every single other Bethesda game, you know, there's something underwater, right? Like there's underwater stuff that you can find in Skyrim. There's stuff, I mean, even go back to like Morrowind, Oblivion, you know, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas. Well, maybe not really Fallout New Vegas, but in Fallout 4, you know, in Fallout 4, I think like the strongest armor set you can find, like the strongest combat armor is underwater, you know? So I don't really understand why in Starfield you can't even go underwater in Starfield. You can only swim on the surface, which is insane. You can't even swim underwater. At least to see the barren ocean or to see the barren lakes or whatever. You can't even go underwater in Starfield, which is just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, you're already wearing a spacesuit, you know? I mean, you might as well be able to go underwater, and you can breathe underwater. I mean, I don't know, whatever. But I definitely would love to see like an oceans update where they add marine life to the game. And again, it could only be on Neon City. I mean, Neon City, the Aurora is literally harvested from these massive shark or fish-like, you know, creatures, and you can't even see them. Like you only see them like hung up on hooks or something in one of the floors in Neon City, and you only see it like very briefly, and no one really talks about it. So I would definitely love to see an Oceans update. If it's, you know, only linked to Neon, that would be really cool. Definitely would love to see like an underwater dungeon, you know, where maybe you go into like an underwater vault. I mean, that was something that was cut out of Fallout 4. You know, in Fallout 4, apparently they found cut content of an underwater vault. I think modders added it back into the game. But I would definitely love to see something akin to that in Starfield. Definitely a missed opportunity in the base game, and definitely would love to see that added in. And then just kind of like a small thing, you know, for your future update. I think this would be really easy for them to do. It's kind of just like a little bit of an expansion to the red line. I think the red line, so the red line in the base game is supposed to be kind of like a smuggler's haven, right? Like it's I think it's like the only place that you can land where your ship is not scanned and you can sell your contraband. It's literally in the base game just like this, like a singular building, right? And I know it's like a smuggler's place, but I mean, at least expand it underground if you don't want it to be like, it's too obvious. You know, if they have a giant space station on top of the planet, then you know they might get shut down. But I mean, at least expand it underground or something like that. I just feel like the red line was very lackluster. You know, there just wasn't enough people, and it was kind of the vibe of it was like it's just a glorified casino. I mean, it is basically just a casino where I can talk to the bartender and sell contraband to him. So it didn't really seem like a quote unquote smuggler's haven. So definitely would like to see a red line expansion. So Neon City expansion, Oceans update, red line expansion, just a couple of ideas, just kind of spitball. These are some kind of things they can add in the future, like near future updates I would like to see. And with that, that kind of wraps things up here. I just wanted to give a little bit of a quick video where I guess it's not quick anymore. I guess I've been recording for about like 40 minutes here. But yeah, I just wanted to touch up on the Terran Armada DLC. The Trackers Alliance thing is cool. The Free Lanes update in general was very nice to see. A lot of things in there that I love to look at. And then, you know, for the PlayStation players, it'll all come out on April 7th. So with that, we'll wrap up the video here. Thank you guys for coming in. If you guys like videos like this where I just yap and talk about news, definitely let me know. Definitely let me know how I can improve. This is the first time that I've really done like a super unscripted video and just kind of lay it all out. You know, like I have obviously like bullet points in front of me, but I just kind of yapped for 40 minutes here. So let me know how I can improve. If you guys would like me to say a little bit more concise, maybe take better notes. I don't know. If you guys like this type of video, like I said, feel free to comment down below. And if you'd like to see more news content. And without further ado, thank you guys for coming in. I will see you guys next time, and I hope you guys have a great day.